And they all hated us, except for the skip levels. But they were like being like so mean that afterwards I immediately called my manager and she's pouring tears. Just inconsolable. And I'm upset too, but she's like taking it even harder.
So welcome back to the podcast that asks the question that recruiters ask 20 times a day anyway, and it is time to start asking ourselves, is this still a good time? I am excited today to ask that question and bring a very good friend of mine on today. Farah Sharghi is someone who I've known for several years. She has one of the most impressive resumes imaginable, and it goes beyond just work, but we are talking about a former software engineer into recruiter at the New York Times, Google, TikTok, Uber, Lyft, you name it, she has been there. Before that, I believe Farah was a Broadway singer, voiceover actor, possibly space alien. I don't know, but her resume is very impressive. So we're always going to ask her before anything. Farah, before we get started, I just need to know, is this still a good time?
It is a great time. Thank you so much, Mike, for asking. And thank you for being my hype man. I'm going to take you everywhere I go.
I have to be. You were one of my first original hype women. I've told this story before. I'll tell it very quickly again, that one of the first times I ever went viral on the internet, somebody tagged Farah to confirm if the video was true or not. And I sat there just refreshing the comments for like 12 hours, just scared that she was going to show up and tear me a new one. And that would be the end of any hope that I ever had at starting anything. She just ignored it and never showed up at all, which was like the second best option. So it was a great start.
Yeah, it was a great start. No, I mean, it's funny because on TikTok, you get so many comments. I don't even remember if I saw the comment. I think I probably saw the video and was like, yeah, it's great. And that was it. I was like, all right, I've got to like answer all these other things. So no, I mean,
was so unimportant to you at the time. It's just how it was.
At the time, but then, it's funny how TikTok is like you kind of, water seeks its own levels, and then you find other creators like yourself, and then you start building this like weird community of people you've never actually met.
Mm-hmm.
And then you become really good friends, and then you do things like host a podcast together, and then one person invites you to a conference to do a fireside chat with them, and next thing you know, you're a guest on their podcast, and here we are.
These are all things I've asked Farah to do, oddly enough. I believe she's talking from experience. Farah did used to host the Corporate Pizza Party podcast with me that may still be available. I really don't know. I've stopped paying the bills, so I don't know what happens to the episodes when that happens. We've spoken at RecFest together. We, of course, are friends. And we're going to talk a lot about community today, too. So we'll kind of get to some of that, but I think that leads into it. What I'm excited about for you, though, in our recruiter breakdown section, which is where we break down some of the big news and also avoid having our own breakdowns, of course, is for most recruiters, we like to talk about like candidate expectations, how unfair they are, how they're everywhere, how whatever we do is wrong. But I think with you and the background you have and the companies you've been in, I really want to talk about some of these internal expectations that don't get talked about enough publicly. I think you've probably worked in a lot of high pressure environments, a lot of environments where people might think they're destination jobs, but maybe they're really not for various reasons. And I'm curious just like what you think people don't understand about the internal expectations that recruiters have.
Well, first of all, I don't think people understand the point of internal recruiters. They
Sure.
always say recruiters are stupid. They're not subject matter experts. I'm like, then you don't understand what recruiters actually do. We don't have to be subject matter experts. What we should be, though, are experts we're basically like project managers, except it's like you're part project manager, part salesperson, but what you're selling are people to other people. And so we have to be really good at psychology. We really have to understand the person we're talking to, what their incentives are, right? On the candidate side, but also on the hiring manager side, because recruiters' paychecks are paid by the company, not the hiring manager. Mm-hmm. I actually don't report to my hiring manager. I report to my manager. They report to the business. I don't give a flying F what the hiring manager thinks and doesn't think. If it's not in alignment with what the expectations are for hiring, I need to reel them back in and go, hey, listen, that purple squirrel that doesn't exist, Yeah, it doesn't exist. So, in order for me to support you, we need to have better realistic expectations. Let's work through that together. So, there's like a really big psychology piece to this that I think people are really missing. And also, again, just like harping back at it, like, I think a lot of recruiters are like, oh, the mighty hiring manager. Oh my God,
Yes.
whatever they want. Oh, they think I'm dumb and I just need to farm and get like 50 more candidates. No, 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 no. You need to set the tone and establish things at the very beginning. And if you don't, you, recruiter, are going to have a hard time hiring. And that trickles down to the candidate experience.
That's such a good thing that I think recruiters struggle with, including myself, and we probably all have at times. We do not report to the hiring managers, but the hiring managers talk to us and act towards us like we are their servants and
Yes.
that they are in charge, right? And then they go to our boss if they have a problem with us or whatever it might be. What what do you say to a recruiter, I guess, who maybe is newer at this or is struggling and has tough hiring managers? Like, how do we do this? How do we handle that? How do we work with these kind of hiring managers who don't respect us and want us to just sort of be their worker?
If a recruiter is coming to me and there's like, Farah, I'm struggling, I don't know what to do. It's like, okay, tell me who the players are, AKA the hiring managers, interviewers. What does your process look like in terms of, intake versus like hiring? Like, what does that process look like? First, we need to check and see if that process is broken, right? Is the recruiter making a mistake there? If there is, we can rectify that. That's fine. Once we fix all of that, or once we identify the gaps or problems, now we can go approach the hiring manager. So I would ask them, like, what are the conversations? What are the things they're telling you? What are the expectations you set with your hiring manager? If you haven't set those expectations, we need to back up the party train, right? And so what I would tell them is gather all your data, decide how you want to approach things going forward, go to your manager, talk to them about the problems that you're having with the hiring manager, say, this is how we've been hiring, this is how they approach me. Here's how I would like to do things going forward. Do I have your support? You have to get support from your manager. Otherwise, you can't just like go in just like guns a-blazing. Like, that's not going to work. So if your manager has agreed, or if you work it out and then they're like, yeah, this is a great approach, you could say, okay, thank you. Then what you do is you set up a meeting with the hiring manager and your manager to then level set expectations. And you can, I love acronyms, like the CAR acronym, clarify,
Mhm.
acknowledge, respond. So when you go into that meeting, hey, hiring manager, I know we've had issues with hiring for this position, and identify to them, and don't put blame, like it's your fault. Just lay it out very clearly. Like, these are some of the issues that we've been having with hiring, right? We, not you or me, we, right? We're in this together. And so then you can start and respond, and then you can like propose, okay, here's what we see going forward. Now, also, if it's not a big company like big tech or legacy, you're going to have a difficult time, because oftentimes, in my experience, working at startups, working at places like the New York Times, like the New York Times doesn't have that many employees. I think there's like 900 engineers. They usually don't have a set process for hiring across the entire talent organization or across the entire department. And so that could also be an opportunity for you to step up and say, if you're a technical recruiter, you could say, we don't have a process for hiring engineers across the department. This is likely confusing. One, two, it's a time waste because we constantly change process all the time. Let's turn the hiring into a manufacturing line, because why do we have manufacturing lines? To produce things quickly that are the same over and over and over again. And if everybody has the same process, everybody knows what's going on. If things are screwed up in the process, like, we can easily identify it, things like that. So I know that was a long answer, but
I don't expect any other kind of answer. But no, that's all wonderful, and it is great, because I think but there's a lot of recruiters out there who are newer and maybe listening to this podcast who got into this at a different time in recruiting and things went terrible and they don't know if this is a good time anymore, which is where even this idea comes from. But I think that's so helpful to understand. I'm curious, just because I know it's for me, it's so many, and the way you talk, I know how that would rub so many managers. How many like times did you have to have a one-on-one or a sit down with a hiring manager because your boss told you to, because they knew that you two just weren't getting along. It has to have just been double, triple digits.
No, actually,
No? Oh, for me it is.
Well, also,
I'm the asshole.
well, I also like take a very different approach with my hiring managers, and I use a consultative approach where I just ask them a ton of questions and get them to talk about themselves all the time. And so usually things will spill out and we can work it out. There was one hiring manager though, when I was at Uber, and he just did not get it. This guy had worked in restaurants for years, and he worked for part of an organization that was like a spin out of their incubator. He'd only worked in restaurants, and the restaurant industry is kind of brutal. Like they're really mean to each other and they yell and they scream. And so that was fun. And so he and I just did not get along. And the reason why is because he had basically his blank check cut off from the company. Because what he would do is he would get agency recruiters to just throw resumes at him.
Sure.
And then the candidates would go through these ridiculous processes. It was to the point where that's why they assigned him to me. The other recruiter's like, I can't handle this guy. This guy's an asshole. He tried to get me pipped, performance improvement planned. He was trying everything. He would go, if my manager wasn't in a meeting, he would then after a meeting, go to him and be like, Farah didn't do this. Farah didn't do that. I'm like, asshole, you were on your cell phone on Market Street walking. I could hear the trolleys behind you, and you're telling me I didn't write something on the agenda? You weren't even looking. Are you kidding me?
Why are hiring managers obsessed with doing calls in the worst possible places? I'm sure this person also did it with interviews, because we all have the manager doing interviews in a Starbucks line and putting someone on hold to order their coffee and then telling the recruiters that they're the problem.
Oh my God. Thankfully, knock on wood, that's never happened to me, but they would never dare do that to me because they know what I would do.
Do not do that to Farah.
Do not.
But no, it's a great conversation. It's important because I do think that a lot of recruiters struggle to feel respected by hiring managers, especially in the technical world. I know I've struggled with it, right? CTOs and engineering managers and people at that level, especially, a lot of them have had bad experiences with recruiters and they don't trust them and they talk down to them. And then when you start to struggle with the role, you start to feel like maybe I'm not good enough for this. So I do think that you have to get on that page. I think it's just such an important conversation to have, especially in the technical world.
Yes. And I think it's also important to understand what you're hiring for. So for example, when I worked at Google, I supported hardware hiring for the Moonshot factory. And so I took a little bit of hardware classes at university for my degree, but I didn't need it. And so I remember hiring a display module engineer. And I'm like, what? And they were like, oh, it's this one specific part of the monitor and the module. And I was like, okay. So I did a bunch of research, was looking up modules. How does it work? What is the rat's nest on the board look like? All that stuff. So that way, when I went into a meeting, I didn't sound like an idiot. And I knew, oh, okay, so you're looking for this. So they need to be well-versed in these technologies. And they'd go, oh, yes. Or they would correct me and say, no, but it's actually this, because they appreciate that you took the time. Even if what you read was wrong, they know you took the time to care. People I love this phrase, seek to understand before being understood.
Yeah, that's so important. And I mean, you're way more technical than me, but I also, took pride in myself in technical recruitment I tried to learn, I tried to understand. I was never going to write the code, but I needed to know the difference between these things. I needed to know what technologies work together, what the point of it was. And these managers generally would like explaining it to you. All right. I've asked people, I'm just like, can you just explain to me what we even do with Kubernetes? I know the word, but what does it mean? Why does it exist? And they want to have those talks, and it'll help your interviews be better. It'll help your intake calls be better. You just have to, right? And yes, people will always say, you're not trained how you should be hired. And my response to them is always, you're going to be furious when you find out about who hires doctors and pilots, because it is not other doctors and pilots. It is recruiters at the airline industry and at the hospital. And they manage to do just fine.
Exactly. Agreed.
I have a recruited in the wild story for you that I saved specifically to talk to with you because I know you were going to have thoughts. I wrote about this in depth on LinkedIn and in my newsletter. But if you have not heard, even though it's a little bit older at this point, Perplexity, which is an AI search engine, especially very good, or AI search engine essentially. It's good and people love it. The Perplexity CEO was on a podcast recently, while in the process of hiring a lead technical recruiter, oddly enough, who said that AI is going to replace recruiters within 6 months. His exact quote was, "A recruiter's work worth 1 week is just one prompt, sourcing and reach outs." I wanted to just read you that quote and then open up the mic to you, Farah, and say, how do you feel reading that story spread all over the internet?
Hey, Perplexity, it was nice knowing you. Like, what? Like, I cannot believe he would say something so stupid. Like, genuinely dumb. And I'm not saying that lightly. Like, that is good. Like, literally good luck to him. I mean, is sourcing part of, the recruiting and hiring process? Yes. And for those of you listening, sourcing is when recruiters or people will source candidates, find them in the wild, like on LinkedIn or on publications or whatever, right? We're sourcing people. Can AI replace that? It can do some of it. Yeah, of course. But what about the psychology of the recruiter speaking to the candidate and making sure the candidate's not just using the company to get an offer letter so they can get promoted at work? Good luck, AI. I would love to see you figure that one out without outright asking. No, it doesn't happen. Just doesn't.
Yeah. I mean, I hear your stories even from earlier of the conversations you have to have and with difficult hiring managers.
Yeah.
And AI, right? AI is great. And this isn't going to turn into like what's the problems with AI? But we all know, especially that AI doesn't return exactly what we're hoping for.
Mm-hmm.
Just this morning, I fed my book that's coming out, and I fed it into ChatGPT a while ago and was just like, what do you think about this? Give me some honest takes. And then this morning I was like, let's put together a marketing plan for this book. Pull like 10 of the hottest takes out of this book, just the quotes for me. And it kept making up quotes. It was hallucinating them. Yeah. And I was like, no, these aren't actually in the quotes. I was like, where did you find this? And they're like, oh, it was on page 90. And I was like, no, it's not. Show me the context.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, you're right to call me out. And this happened like 5 times. It kept making up quotes. And it's just like, that's who you're going to replace and build your teams with?
Yeah, it's like, so you want AI to hallucinate and maybe say things to candidates like, oh yeah, you want $500,000 comp? Not a problem. All of a sudden, you got a lawsuit on your hands. Like, really, like, let's think about this. But I remember when I worked at Uber, so what, 2018, 2019, I had been reached out to by researchers at Stanford in their AI lab. And they're like, hey, we're working on this project. Can we just talk to you for like 30 minutes an hour? And I was like, yeah, sure. Why not? And they were building an AI chatbot to handle the initial recruiter phone screen. And I was like, you're idiots. And they're like, what?
Those are everywhere now.
Yeah. But I was like, you're idiots. They're like, well, why? I go, that first call is so important. Like, you don't understand that salary negotiation begins before the call even starts. And once the call starts, like, I can tell very quickly based on tone of voice, language, how the candidate introduces himself when they answer the question, tell me about yourself. Like, I can glean a lot from that, which helps me in the hiring process. If that is taken away from me, I actually cannot be an effective recruiter. And I will actually end up wasting more of the company's time in the long run. This will happen. Watch, mark my words right now. All these little chatbots, and if it's for roles that are like, not just like, hey, like go work in the warehouse or something, those kind of roles, like more white collar jobs, companies will go, oh, we're going to start pulling back on AI in this respect. We're going to start using it in others.
And we're seeing it. I mean, we're already seeing companies that have like let people go to say like AI can replace these jobs, and then be like, oh shit, no, it can't really do it the same, right? It's we're figuring this all out together, which is, right. It's an interesting time because this is all brand new and companies are figuring out like what uses can AI really have? Can it save time? Can it save money or what? But there has been a jump to just like, oh, it can do everything. Yeah. And it cannot do everything.
Correct.
To me, the insult was just that a recruiter's work is 1 week in just a prompt sourcing and reach outs. I want to know what prompt you write in to AI to just like replace everything the recruiter does.
Right. I wouldn't even know where to begin. Like, really don't know where. I just like, that is the most stupid quote. And what blows my mind is that he said it publicly.
Mhm.
Like, say it privately, fine, whatever, do whatever you want behind closed doors. But you said it publicly. What recruiter in their right mind would want to go work for them?
Well, we'll find out because they are hiring a technical lead recruiter. They may even have it hired by the time that this is out there. I'm going to keep track and see. But let's say this story comes out.
Mhm.
This job is posted. You've applied. You have an interview. Do you show up to the interview?
Oh, yeah, I'm going to show up to the interview. You know why? Because I want an answer to that question, or I want an answer to that statement. Hey, recruiter, if they're like, Farah, tell me about yourself, I'd be like, yeah, happy to do that. But before we do that, I just want to make sure that this conversation that we're going to have is actually fruitful for both of us. Your CEO recently said this. Can you go into more detail about what he meant by that?
Yeah.
That's what I would do.
I hope you get a chance to meet with the CEO. I mean, it's the lead technical recruiter. I think it's their first recruiting role. That feels like a meet with the CEO type of job, but who knows?
What I find funny is that people like kind of shudder at CEOs. I'm like, don't. They're just normal people. They don't have that much power. Like, come on. But no, you know what? Maybe that's a good experiment, Mike. I mean, I have my own coaching practice, but maybe I should apply for that job and see what happens and just be like, you know what? I want to interview with that CEO because that would be fun.
Like, what's the job? What's the promise of length there? Is your goal to get rid of me in 6 months? Like, that would be my question. Like, you don't think I will have a job in 6 months? Like, yes, I would love to come work for you. Amazing.
Exactly. Or why are you hiring a lead technical recruiter? Hire a prompt engineer.
Yeah. Figure
Like,
it out. Replace the recruiter.
Yeah. It's like, do you know how many companies have been trying to automate recruiting? Like, I don't think so.
Yeah. And then we won't even touch what's happening with Workday and where we're going to go into automation. So yeah, I mean, I think the lesson in 100% is one, stop talking publicly when you're going to say things like that. But also just, we have to slow down with this stuff. Like anyone who knows me or you knows that we are not anti-AI adoption. But the idea of just like how quickly can we throw it in everywhere is going to come back and bite people. It is going to make a problem. Like it is not a race to see how quickly you can use it incorrectly.
Right. The whole like iterate, break fast and do all that. In recruiting, that's not going to work out well. I do know that in big tech, I've heard some companies are leveraging AI, but in ways that people aren't like, not like lay people in recruiting. Like people are like, oh, no, AI is filtering out your resume. And that's what, no, what they're using AI for is like scheduling interviews or when there is an interview that's virtual, it'll summarize the notes. So it'll like capture the transcript, summarize the notes. The interviewer can then go in and like, delete or add their own notes. That's where it's saving them time. And I think that's a really good use of AI. But to say that it's going to replace like the initial conversations for jobs that are paying like $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 in that high stakes environment, no way. It's going to really backfire.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch happen. I want to move into my recruiting nightmare section.
Okay.
We all have these stories. The recruiting nightmares can be a candidate story, a hiring manager story, a job story, something that happened to you. We've all told a lot of these stories. But just for everybody out there listening, for all the recruiters out there who sort of share these stories, what is your recruiting nightmare?
So when I went to work for the New York Times, I went there because I was burnt out. I was working 996 at TikTok. And TikTok was great, don't get me wrong, but like it was just like, it was too much. I couldn't do 60, 80 hours a week anymore. I was exhausted.
Because it was like peak growth when you were there, right?
Yeah, it's peak growth. I helped build the CRM monetization team. So they're keeping track of like TikTok shop stuff, right? Anyway, so when I left, I went to the New York Times and one of my friends actually went there. That's why I went. And so I get in there. My first week, they're like, Farah, you're going to be supporting basically the DevOps team. Okay, cool. So I get into this meeting. There's like 11 people, like hiring managers, the skip level, all that. The recruiter is like, okay, everybody, like, let's review resumes. She would put up a resume for everyone to read. And then the hiring manager's like, I want that one. No, I want that one. It was like hiring manager Hunger Games.
Like bidding on resume?
Yeah,
like, just like Everyone got in a room and looked at the resumes?
Yeah. Now remember, this is my first week. I'm still onboarding. I'm still trying to figure out systems and tools. Like I haven't even gotten into the hiring stuff. And so afterwards I go to my manager and I go, what's going on here? What is this? And she said, because I go, where are the jobs? And she goes, oh, we have one evergreen requisition for all the jobs in the DevOps group. And I go, why? Well, like they started making excuses. I was like, oh my God, no wonder you people need help. You're like trying to hire like 25 roles, including like at all levels, right? Junior to manager, senior manager level. And you just put up one job posting for the department. This is why everything is effed up. So I go to the drawing board and I'm like, okay, we can't do this. So I go, where's your intake form? She's like, what are you talking about? I go, what? Do you not even know she didn't even know what an intake form was. Bless her heart. She was a lovely manager, but like she'd been recruiting for years, but been at the company for like 8 or 9. So she had like no clue. So I explained to her what it was. So I created the intake form for the Times and was like, hey, hiring managers, you need to tell me what jobs you're hiring for. Cause they had assigned recs, like assigned rec numbers for each of the recs, but they didn't like post them externally. And I'm like, this is stupid. So I went to my manager and said, okay, we have to overhaul this. This is what a good process looks like. So she agreed with me. Okay. That department was pissed. The whole department, imagine like a whole department of people like hating you. Because
I can imagine.
Their skips were like, yeah, Farah, dude, that's actually because one of the skip levels had come from Netflix. And he was like, this is why we hired you, Farah. Go in there and clean house. And I'm like, okay. So I start going through this process and it is like going through quicksand, like 8-hour meetings a day. And on top of that, I have to do my like recruiting, right? I have to do my job. Then one day there was a meeting where it was 11 against me and my manager. And they all hated us, except for the skip levels. But they were like being like so mean that afterwards I immediately called my manager and she's pouring tears. Just inconsolable. And I'm upset too, but she's like taking it even harder. And then after that, the skip levels came to her and said, listen, we need to have a private talk. That was unacceptable. They didn't apologize. They apologized, but not the whole group. But it's because I was asking them to do things that they didn't want to do. They thought it was a waste of time. And I'm like, what is a waste of time is you trying to hire one role for 2 years. That's stupid. So let's figure this out. So anyway, go to the drawing board. They're like, Farah, we're going to assign a project manager from our department to help you. It's like, great. So that way there would be more buy-in from that department. I said, okay. So and I still have it to this day, this entire hiring document from like P0 all the way to like, when we hire a candidate and the onboarding process and all that. Presented it to the skip levels. They were like, this is perfect. We presented it to the hiring managers and they skip levels were like, if you don't do what Farah tells you to do, you're going to have to answer to me. I was like, yes. Now, fast forward 6 months, right? Get all this hiring done. Everything's going well. They become the darlings of engineering. All the other engineering managers, like the directors of other groups were like, how did you guys hire this many people? 1, 2, you hired a bunch of female engineers. Oh, I don't know. Maybe because we had a fucking process. So the other directors of engineering were coming to me begging, hey, can you do what you did over there for us? Yeah, no problem. Let's get this done, right? And all the while that this is happening, I get promoted to senior manager. I get a team of direct reports, one of whom was the executive assistant to my boss, who had never worked a day in her life as a recruiter. She's always been an executive assistant. She has an accounting background. I had no tools to train her, and I had to build an entire training for her to teach her basics of engineering, how to be a good recruiter, all this stuff. So yeah, I would say like my time at the New York Times was probably my nightmare.
One of my favorite things about you, Farah, and like where this story came in is like most people's recruiting nightmare stories are like this terrible thing happened and like here's what happened. And your recruiting nightmare story is like, here's how I saved the day at the country's largest publication and everybody loved me and I'm the best.
No, I mean, the engineering loved me, but like Listen, you end up butting heads with people, but no, I mean, it wasn't all sunshine and roses. I'm sure there are people there who still
No,
hate
I'm
me,
sure going
but
through that process was very hard. You obviously put in a ton of work. It's just like and it's funny because you talk about the New York Times as not being that big, but I think most people just imagine the New York Times as just this gigantic conglomerate because it's
right.
the New York Times. So like when I hear a story of just like, oh, little Farah, I went in here and I just did this a little bit at the New York Times and then everything was great over there. It's a classic Farah story,
Eh,
which is awesome though, and it's what
thank you.
makes you good, and it's what other recruiters need to kind of strive to be able to do, right? If someone can go into a place like the New York Times that's been doing it wrong for 9 years and start to put in process and change things, like there's no excuse for any recruiters out there to not be able to do that too.
Yeah, and I remember one time my manager took me aside one day and it's like, hey, when you tell people like you worked at all of these places and meetings, it kind of rubs people the wrong way. You shouldn't say that anymore. I said, well, here's the reason why I say it is because these people think I'm stupid and they think that I'm not capable. So I have to remind them, hey, I worked at these companies. You're like, Mike, literally, they would get like resumes from Amazon engineers. Now, it's the
Hmm.
Times, it's media. They don't pay that well. They pay like half or less than
Yeah.
half of what an average Amazon engineer would make. And I remember a hiring manager goes, oh, these two Amazon engineers applied. Like, you should talk to them. And I was like, I don't want to. They're like, but they applied. I go, we cannot meet their comp expectations. I don't want to have this conversation. Literally, one laughed me off the phone and the other one goes, how are you expected to hire someone? The candidate asked me that. I go, listen, man, this is why we're bringing it up the first 5 minutes.
Hmm.
So I'm doing you a service, okay? And then I went back to the hiring manager. I'm like, yeah, I don't like getting laughed at, okay? So maybe you should listen to me when I'm telling you, like, this is not a good idea. Plus, like, size-wise, like, they're not, like, big company versus small company. The problems that they're solving they're not the same. Like, find someone who's better aligned to help you.
This is a totally different topic that I don't want to get down, but I've like been thinking a lot about like the way to say this to people and kind of talk about it a lot is like every hiring manager, every executive, they all say the same thing, right? They all want A talent. They all want the A players. And so many of them are not A companies or A managers or A teams. And it's just like, that's just not how it works.
I mean, it's to me, it's not. I mean, I agree with you. It's like it is it's the most ignorant thing I've ever heard. I'm like, what does an A player mean to you? Oh, a
Hmm.
Google engineer. Okay, listen,
Hmm.
Google is ginormous. 1, 2, mediocre engineers can get by without getting laid off,
Hmm.
and some of them don't even want to get promoted. They're just like going to coast. You want that person to be on your team because you're in hyper growth mode and you expect that person to help you in that phase of stage in your company. Not going to happen. They will fail miserably and you're going to be pissed off.
Yeah. Re- Recruiters have all suffered, I think, if you don't work at a FANG company, from the hiring managers and the executives who are obsessed with the logos and getting people out of FANG. I'm just like, there are plenty of idiots there as well. But I can tell you as a recruiter who's never worked at any of those companies, never even really tried to,
Hmm.
how often people will say to me, just like, well, why should we listen to you? Like, your career's not that impressive. You're not done this. I'm just like, I probably could have gotten a job recruiting at Google. They were hiring a billion recruiters a few years ago, and the bar to entry was basically like, do you have a pulse and are you afraid to talk to people? And obviously there were great recruiters there too. Farah is one. If you're a recruiter at Google, I'm not insulting you, but like, let's not pretend that just putting that company on your resume automatically makes you better at what you do as well.
But it's kind of like working at a FANG company is like you're now the hot chick. You're the chick that gets into all the clubs for free. You get the free drinks, you get the da da da, right? They just kind of automatically assume, oh, because you have that brand, you can bring this in the door. And listen, I'm a brand whore, right? I'll just be the first one to say it. That's all over my resume. And I use it to my advantage. I want to
Sure.
be the hot recruiter. That's fine. But I also have enough fortitude to understand that where I've worked, yes, it has influence. Yes, it has cachet, but really, I should also be able to take a step back and not just lean on my experience, but understand the applicability of my experience relative to what I'm doing now.
Hmm.
Right. And so for recruiters out there, if they're like working at a smaller company and like Google has layoffs and the hiring manager's like, oh my God, like yeah, we have to hire all these people. It's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Hold on. I hear you. But one, they're going to have very high comp expectations. Two, are they even doing any work related to what you're doing? Three, they can be fucking, wait, can I curse?
I mean, we've been cursing the whole time.
Great. Okay. Can they fucking code? Can they get you into your growth mode? Like, do they even want to do that? Maybe,
Yeah.
maybe not.
Yes. Yeah. The work at a startup is so different than the work at a FAANG company. And I don't know which is harder or better. It's not about that at all. But I have seen from my career recruiting in startups, so many big name logo people come in there and just be like the worst possible hire for that company because they've never had to do 70% of what you need them to do. They're just really good at that other 30%.
Exactly. Or my favorite is whenever I have a candidate who either works at Salesforce or wants to work at Salesforce. I'm like, so you want to go work at a legacy tech company where the code base is basically held up by duct tape. And then they laugh and they're like, yeah, you're right. I'm like, yeah, of course I'm right. I know about these things. And so as recruiters, like you will pick up on these things. Like, I think it's also important that recruiters ask candidates, why are you interested in this position? AKA, why are you leaving your current company? And you can even ask that. Why are you leaving your current company? They will tell you things that you're not going to learn anywhere else. You can't read about it. You can't watch a YouTube video about it. You have to learn from the person, and they're going to tell you inside information that then you can tell your hiring manager. So that's a bonus tip, by the way. Hey, hiring manager, I heard this is what's going on at such and such company. Do you know anybody over there? Maybe there's somebody there we can poach.
Yeah. It's a lot, right? And it's why we're never getting replaced. And if you're out there and you're in these companies that aren't that attractive, you wouldn't call it an A company, right? Understand sort of like that is partially your job to get that message across. Which, leads us to something I think you touched on at the beginning, the community aspect of this and the cope of this. I mean, recruiting is hard. And the reason I started this podcast and the newsletter is to help those of us who have just been beat down and burned out and still choose to show up anyway. Talk to recruiters out there. Like, I know you have sort of moved into your own world at this point, but you spend a lot of time in this tough situation. How do you cope with it? Like, what is something easy they can do to cope? Like, how do you cope? How do you find and keep a community during all of this?
I think it's important that you lean on your team if you have a team of people, right? Because other recruiters will always complain to each other about hiring managers. And I think you just kind of need that to be able to talk to somebody who's in recruiting so that they get it. One. Two, you need champions within your company to help support you along the way. So your manager really has to be there for you, right? But you also have to be there for yourself. And you need to always, 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 it doesn't matter if you're a recruiter or what you do at work. If you work at a company, you don't work for yourself, cover your assets, document everything, right? I always documented all of my one-on-ones with my direct reports, people I was having meetings with, my hiring managers. I had running agendas for every meeting that I had. So I could go back and be like, oh, remember that thing that I was supposed to do? Oh, wait, I didn't do that. Bad on me. Oh, wait, that thing you were supposed to do? Did you do that? Oh, you did it, right? So I think when it comes to community, it's when you cover your bases, no one's going to come to you and say, well, did you do this and do that? And you say, yeah. And they're like, well, where's your proof? Oh, I don't have any. It's all in my head. Well, that's not really proof now, is it? Right? So I think it's important to have an internal community, but then also an external one, like Mike, you and I, and Daniel, and, who was our other co-host for our old podcast. We would all message each other, and go, oh my God, I'm in this situation. What do I do? So I think it's important to have a core group of people that you really know, like, and trust, your ride or dies, so that they can really help support you.
Yeah, that's so important. That's such a big part, like I said, of this podcast, this newsletter, and why it started, is because I don't feel like that's known enough in the community, in the recruiting world. And a lot of recruiters, I think, feel out there and by themselves and just, we do our own doom scrolling of LinkedIn and watch everybody hate us and tell us how terrible we are at our job. So it is important to be able to find those people who get it and know that, yeah, we're struggling and we make mistakes, whatever else, but we're also just sort of schlubs doing our job at the end of the day.
Yeah. I mean, listen, people hate recruiters because it's misdirected hate. They're just frustrated and we're the easy target. And I think people just need to always remember that, try not to take it personally. And you know what? If you're getting trolled, that means you're doing something right. So especially if you're not doing anything wrong. If you didn't say anything wrong and someone's trolling you, it's misdirected hate. Take it and just go, you know what? They got their own issues, but clearly I'm getting attention. So yay. And just keep doing what you're doing.
Keep doing the job.
Yeah.
That's just ultimately like you just have to keep doing the job. I love the quote from The Wire. You cannot lose if you do not play. You don't have to just go down to everybody who's feeling this way and talking that way. Like, just keep doing the job.
Exactly.
This is amazing. Farah, I love talking to you. You're brilliant and you have a great outlook, and that's why I always want you to talk on panels when I put them together or podcasts or whatever else. It's just the experience you bring. I think is so valuable. Obviously the job search advice you give, but also to recruiters and to people in TA as you've been through these situations and companies of all size. I know a lot of what you do online is job talk, but I mean, even for recruiters who just want to kind of find where can people follow you and know you better?
Well, thank you again, Mike, for the opportunity to talk on your podcast. I really appreciate that. People can find me on YouTube, Farah Sharghi. I'm more active on YouTube because I'm more interested in creating more long form content. So I can really just like get more detailed and granular about topics. Because Mike, you know how much I love that. But you can also find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok. And I think on LinkedIn, maybe I should post more tips for recruiters because maybe they do need a little bit extra love.
I do think there is a need for it. And I will tell you just from this podcast and from the newsletter it's going out to people, right? It might be a more, smaller audience than say everyone out there who's unemployed who's job seeking, but it's an audience who needs talking to and help and community. And it's one who gets it. And it's one that I think is very engaged in this type of stuff. So, I love, adjusting a lot of kind of that talk to them and why I love kind of this conversation. So this is awesome. For those of you listening, thank you. Go find Farah. Tune in for more episodes. And I promise I'll be in touch by the end of the week.
Thank you so much for having me. And everybody buy Mike's book. I can't wait to read it. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, buy my book.